In the opening scene of the movie, Andrew Paxton ignores his alarm and rushes out of bed after recognizing he's overslept and might be very late for work. He makes right away and arrives at the office just in time. Margaret Tate enters the office just as he is about to sit down at his desk. Everyone either stutters or turns their heads away as she quickly and rudely walks by them into her office. Andrew works as Margaret's secretary and assistant at a major publishing firm in New York City. Bob Spaulding, an editor, was fired by Margaret after he tried to humiliate her by yelling at her in front of the entire employee. When he doesn't go right away, she takes the abuse and then threatens to have security escort him out. After he leaves, she informs Andrew that she will require him this weekend, forcing him to cancel his plans to go to his grandmother's 90th birthday celebration. Over the phone, his father chastises him and tells him to give up. He pretends to be speaking with a writer when he hears Margaret approaching, but she picks up on his trick and queries whether his family had advised him to give up. He responds, "Every day." Later, she is summoned to her boss's office where she is informed that she has void her visa and will soon be deported because she left the country to court a new author a few months ago. This would result in her losing her position, which would then be awarded to Bob, the only other editor in the building whom she had just fired. When Margaret orders Andrew to take a message and he does, he inquires as to whether or not he should indicate that she is otherwise engaged. At that point, Andrew interrupts with a call from a writer. An idea flashes into Margaret's mind. She summons Andrew into the office and tells the managers they are getting married. He makes an attempt to refute it, but she persuades them otherwise. She tries blackmail to force Andrew to continue the ruse after they leave the workplace in order to obtain her citizenship. She takes him over to immigration, and he unwillingly accepts. They see Mr. Gilbertson at the workplace, who recognizes their predicament right once and makes an effort to frighten them into admitting. Though Andrew appears to be about to lose it, he decides against it and instead blackmails her into giving him a promotion. At his grandmother's celebration upcoming weekend in Alaska, they inform him they'll make their engagement official. Outside of the office, Andrew demands a promotion and the publication of a novel he has been attempting to get known for, or he will make a deal and confess. When he asks her to get down on her knees and propose, she complies after realizing how much she needs him. Before agreeing, he insults her for a short while. To get to Sitka, where Andrew is from, they first fly first class. After that, they transfer to a smaller, less luxurious aircraft. Andrew's mother Grace and grandmother Annie Gammy welcome them as they arrive. Margaret, who is visibly uneasy in her new surroundings, is also welcomed. As a result of Grace canceling her hotel arrangement so she could stay with them, she is taken aback and finds them to be fairly frigid. When she learns that Andrew is from a wealthy family with numerous local businesses under their control, she is surprised. As they board a dinghy to travel to their home, she becomes frightened since Maggie, as they refer to her, is unable to swim. Maggie wonders why Andy didn't reveal his wealth to her when they got to the Paxton mansion. He answers that while he isn't, his family is. Andy is shocked to be welcomed by the entire town in a welcome home party because he has been away for approximately 3 years. He will determine how and when to announce the engagement. Maggie and Andy agree, but his father interrupts and disparages Andy in front of everyone. Since Andy and his father Joe are at odds, Andy promptly announces their engagement. He and Maggie experience an uneasy exchange as they discuss his proposal. The basic story goes like this: they dated, she assumed he was cheating, but she was shocked to discover him in a tuxedo in a hotel room on a bed of rose petals and hand-cut hearts, where he cried and sobbed his proposal. Before Andy and Maggie kiss, the audience clinks glasses, and they comply. Maggie is then introduced to Andy's ex-girlfriend from high school and college, Gertrude, who still resides and works in Sitka. The baby maker, a quilt with enchanted abilities, is given to Maggie and Andy that evening after they are brought to their room, a big, lovely bedroom with a stunning view of the neighboring lake. Grace and Gammy go, leaving Maggie tossing the object away while they rest. Maggie sleeps on the bed as Andy makes his bed on the floor. Because of how light it is there in Alaska, even at night, Grace tries to locate a cozy place to sleep. When Andy hears her moving about, he opens the remote-controlled curtains to make the room darker. The ringing of Maggie's phone wakes them up the following morning. She responds and scans the space for a signal before moving on. When she refuses to leave, Andy yells at her, and the family dog follows her downstairs and out the front door. During the course of her conversation, she realizes she should not have left the door open and dashes off to save the puppy from a ravenous eagle. The dog is taken by the eagle, who then quickly lets him go. When Maggie tries to carry on a conversation while holding the dog, the eagle takes the phone and flies off. While Grace and Gammy are grinning, Maggie is actually trying to persuade the eagle to release the phone while they believe she is playing with the puppy. When Andy emerges from the house, he tells Maggie to get ready because his family wants to take her somewhere. It turns out that Ramon, a local and waiter from the party, has brought Maggie to a restaurant in which performs as a stripper. Maggie is forced onto stage, covered in a veil by Grace, and given a lap dance. She immediately walks outside once he finishes since she is obviously uncomfortable. Gertrude joins her and says that although she declined Andy's engagement proposal before he left for NYC, she is glad he found Maggie. She has always been from the area, but Andy was made for other things. In the meantime, he is being asked to join his father in the lawn as he plays golf. Andy's decision to reject the family business and work in New York has angered his father, who also expresses his dismay. Andy rejects his father's effort at an apology as they dispute. Maggie, Gammy, and Grace find Andy slashing away at an old canoe when they get to the house. Before they never hear from Andy again, Grace runs inside to rage at Joe and beg him to accept his choices. Before going upstairs to take a shower, Grace listens in. They come without Andy being aware of it. He is removing his clothes on the balcony while loudly listening to his MP3 player. Maggie remembers she neglected to get a towel. As she tries to fetch a towel and he tries to go to the toilet, they bump into each other. They are both startled to see each other while entirely naked. Funny moment, there is no way they could not be naked. While explaining why the other is naked or wet, they retreat into different corners in an effort to conceal themselves. Later that night, when Maggie inquires about Joe and Andy's relationship, Andy refuses to respond and instead questions Maggie about a tattoo on her back. She claims that she acquired it when she was 16 years old, following the accident death of her parents. She also shows that she is not as tough as she seems. After Bob yelled at her and called her names, she sobbed in the workplace lavatory. Andy pays close attention before interjecting a joke to lighten the mood. The following morning, before Andy's mother comes in with breakfast, Maggie desperately tries to stir him up. When Grace enters the room with Joe, he hops into bed and they make out like they are cuddling. They declare their desire for Andy and Maggie to get hitched the next day in the same barn where they previously wed. When Gammy enters and guilt trips them into accepting so she can witness her one and only granddaughter getting married before she passes away, Andy and Maggie make an effort to say no. Maggie shifts right away into a domestic role once they leave, bringing Andy muffins and coffee in bed. She quickly gets dressed and leaves after realizing how much she is enjoying this while Andy is unaware of her actions. When she enters the jungle on her bicycle, she encounters Gammy meditating to Mother Earth. Maggie is prompted to start chanting by Gammy, who implores her to do so. Andy, who was walking close, sees Maggie start singing, thumping, and grinding to the Yin Yang Twins song Get Low as she gets into it. She receives word that her replacement phone has come in and that he is on his way into town to pick it up. She accepts his invitation to go along with them after receiving Gammy's permission to stop their chanting. Ramon, working in the Paxton convenience store, surprises her. Before giving her the phone, he played about with her a little while it was being charged and programmed. She goes to the internet cafe with Andy to check her email. To use the dial-up service for 1 minute, she must put pennies into a machine. She enviously listens while he converses with Gertrude outdoors. Later, Maggie is kidnapped by Grace and Gammy and taken to a dress shop where she tries on Gammy's wedding dress. Maggie receives a jewelry that her mother gave to Gammy after she makes some adjustments. Maggie, who is obviously impacted by this, tries to decline the present but is unable to do so due to Gammy's persistence. Andy is waiting for her in a hurry as she dashes into the lake after them. She starts to panic and freak out over their arrangement as Andy tries to figure out what's wrong. She confesses that because of his loving family, she is terrified that Gammy and the family will lose everything if they ever find out the truth. He takes the wheel in an effort to calm her down, but instead accidentally causes her to tumble overboard. He saves her and assures them of their safety. When they get home, his father takes them into the barn and waits for the INS agent, Mr. Gilbertson. He reveals that he spoke with Mr. Paxton and gave him his explanation for what, in his opinion, led to their hasty engagement. Joe exhorts Andy to take advantage of the offer while it lasts. Andy, who understands what this would mean for Maggie, sticks to his word and maintains that their marriage will go place tomorrow. When they are alone later, Maggie implores Andy to think about his alternatives, but he is adamant that they move on with their plans. To avert bad luck, the groom cannot meet the bride before the wedding. Gammy interrupts and yanks Andy away. Andy waits at the altar while Maggie is led down the aisle for the wedding by Gammy. They turn to face the minister, Ramon, who is one of his numerous aliases. He starts the ceremony, But Maggie unexpectedly cuts him off with her confession. As Maggie exits the barn, Mr. Gilbertson is delighted at being proven correct. Andy is about to proceed when his family stops him and asks him to give an explanation. Maggie has already departed when he goes up to the bedroom. When Gertrude shows up, he realizes how much he has fallen for her. When he tries to follow Maggie, his father, who shows disapproval, stops him. When Gammy collapses with a heart attack, they stop arguing. To get her to the hospital, they carry her onto a plane. She demands that they bury the hatchet on the aircraft. She gets up and asks the pilot to drive them to the airport. After they agree, she was lying. Mr. Gilbertson informs Maggie that she has 24 hours to prepare for her trip to Canada while aboard a different aircraft. When Andy gets there, he tries to get an old acquaintance to stop the plane, but it's too late. The aircraft has already taken off. Maggie starts to clear her workplace in NYC. As she tries to send her boxes to Canada, no one is interested in her or wants to assist. She agrees to stay when Andy, who is out of breath, arrives. In order to court her, he declares his love and makes a marriage proposal. She attempts to suppress her emotions but is unsuccessful and accepts it. The entire office cheers as they share a kiss. The credits start to roll as Mr. Gilbertson interviews them, the entire Paxton family, and Ramon. Well, that's all for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it, and please support us by subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to get notification for new videos every we post.